This car right here, this terrible Citroen C3, is proof that the Europeans have better cars than us Brits.
And I'm not talking about building better cars. We already know that Europe has the best automotive back catalogue.
No, what I mean is cars that people actually bought. Proper cars. Cars that fulfilled their intended purposes. Cars of European culture.
Let's face it, in the UK we have a pretty boring palette of vehicles driving around on our roads. In Central Europe, however, their street furniture couldn't be more interesting. These images are just some of the cars I found on my last holiday to Italy. And look, they're cool. But more importantly, they still exist. Now obviously, a lot of them are totally battered, anywhere close to that big dotted line on the map, and they've probably done an unintentional lacquer delete. If it's an ancient walled city, their bumper corners will almost certainly look like barcodes, and if it's anywhere mountainous, their clutch is definitely hotter than a Brazilian supermodel. But by some undeniable odds, they still work. They still get people to where they need to go. They still deliver freshly baked bread on a morning. They still provide their intended purpose no matter what abuse is thrown at them.
However, I am here today with this, my Citroen C3, that I just paid the princely sum of £200 for, to tell you that there is no miracle at all.
Instead, it's us. We are the problem, not the cars. We're too fussy here, too snobby. We like things to have screens and a built-in AI voice command to tell us what the weather's like. The Europeans just look out their windows.
In fact, I don't even think it's that. I think if you lived in a semi-detached house in, I don't know, Preston, do you think your neighbours will think very highly of you if you had that on the drive? Of course they wouldn't. So to keep up appearances, we bin them off.
Don't believe me? Well, in 2023, 4.3 million cars were scrapped in the entirety of Europe. 880,000 of those were just the UK alone. Over a fifth of all European car waste was us lot.
Now, the reason I made this film wasn't the fact that I dislike UK waste culture. It was the feeling I got when I first saw this Citroen. I was instantly transported to a bar on the Mediterranean, sipping an Orangina and watching the angry Italian waiter lean against his car with a cigarette. And his car was probably something a lot like this C3.
But I am not an Italian waiter. I am simply a low-rent northerner with a fancy for flaky paint. So let's have a look around my new purchase.
Right then, let's have a good look around this absolutely terrible Citroen. It is honestly the worst car I've ever bought, probably, I think. But it was 200 quid, so I can't complain. But just check it out. It just feels so Euro. So coastal town, lack appeal, stinks of fish because it's probably a fisherman's car. It just feels so holiday spec, and I love it. And it makes me want to go somewhere sunny and nice and be by the sea. I don't know, it's just a lovely, lovely feeling I get from this thing. But anyway, let's have a good look around. Obviously, we've got a lot of lack appeal everywhere, but that just adds to the charm, I think. I mean, it's done 115,000 miles, and to be honest, it looks like it's done 215,000 miles. It doesn't look great at all, but it is the C3 Exclusive. It is the top of the line when these came out. These came out in about 2002. This one's a slightly later one on an 03, but it's still an early Mark 1 C3. And I actually think these are quite cool. Even if it wasn't in terrible condition, I think I'd quite like this car because it's just a high spec European econo box. There's something about that that's quite cool. Now, the Exclusive, you got alloys, you got quite a funky velour interior, you got loads of options which we'll go through in a bit, but this would have been some car in its day. Now, noticeably, we have a big dual length pan roof. What an option. This is quite a rare option on these. Sadly, it doesn't work. I investigated it earlier this morning to try and see if we could get it open for the video because I thought, oh, that'd be lovely. The motor doesn't work. In fact, the motor doesn't work because there is no motor. It's been taken out. Someone just took it out. Why is it not there? So part of me wants to buy a motor, but it'll probably cost more than 200 quid, which is more than what I paid for the entire car. Now, a lot of these C3s in the UK, they've had this sill welded up in the past. This one's no different, and it's probably not a very good job. I think someone's just plated it up for a test. So I imagine that will creep through again, because they always do. There is plenty more lack appeal on this rear end. It's just an absolute state. Viably, this is scrap. It's absolute scrap. It's totally 50 quid part X value. I mean, I've probably overpaid at £200 if you were talking to a dealer, but I like it. I think there's something about it, and I just couldn't refuse it. And actually, it's got an MOT. It runs and drives. It works perfectly fine, kind of, I think. Not everything inside works, but we'll gloss over that. Now, they designed the C3 to actually be approachable, to be friendly, to be curvy and kind of reminiscent of the original 2CV, in fact. This was seen as the replacement, the spiritual successor of the 2CV. But in actual fact, it kind of replaced the Saxo.
Now, I know what you're thinking. The Saxo was a fun, feisty little hatchback, and this was, well, anything but. However, circa the birth of the C3, times were changing and manufacturers began to hone in on brand identity. In the 1990s, there was certainly something in the water in France. Their concept cars were perhaps some of the wackiest things to ever grace the automotive world, and one of them was this, the C-3, Citroen's answer to inject some life into the brand. And that it certainly did. In came the 2000s, and the styling cues of those two concept cars finally trickled into production variants. It was sold as a one car does all mantra, and while the rule is unwritten, I believe it introduced the term mini MPV. Like it or not, the C3 brought us versatility. It could have been your first car, it could have been someone's last car, and for me, it's the earliest memory of going on an actual holiday when my parents rented one of these when I was about 3 years old.
Inside, check this thing out. Full velour everywhere. It is so comfy, so cushy. It feels so French, so 2000s. I love it. You've got cubbies upon cubbies upon cubbies, which was again a big thing if you were making a European city car in the 2000s. That's what your priorities were. Where can you store your packs of cigarettes? In the boot, let me show you this. This is what Citroen called the modu board. It was basically a boot floor that flipped up. Sort of. Yeah, there we go. The modu board, everyone. What a useless feature. It basically just makes your boot slightly less shallow, and then it takes up a bit of room at the back. It's absolutely pointless.
Naturally, the C3's weird features don't stop there. Take this double rear view mirror pulled straight out of a carnival funhouse, or these tray tables that can only fit a medium-sized dairy milk caramel. But Citroen made up for all of these idiosyncrasies when you walked into the dealer and ticked the exclusive trim.
Let me run you through some of the options this thing has got, because this would have been some car in its day. We have cruise control, climate control, auto wipers, auto lights, the pan roof, electric windows. The list goes on. Electric mirrors. It is a really high spec thing for 2003. It was cool. It was Euro chic, I think is the word. Under the bonnet. This is the important bit. This is what powers this absolute machine. We have the 1.4 HDI, one of Citroen and Peugeot's best engines, because they just went on forever. This was the 1.4, they did a 1.6, both are brilliant. It was kind of the takeover from the XUD, which was already a really, really good diesel engine. So they had a lot to follow up with, and fortunately, they made a brilliant job of it. This was a great engine. And in fact, I was talking to a friend the other day, and we both said the same thing. I've never known a company that makes such brilliant diesel engines, but such terrible petrol engines. Basically, in the same era as this, you could get the 1.4 and 1.6 VTI Prince engine, which was total garbage. It had a timing chain, and the head gasket went, the timing chain went. It was just terrible. And now we've got PureTechs, which are just absolute dross. But then at the same fold, you had this HDI 1.4 and 1.6. Brilliant engine. I know these have gone to like 200, 300k, no sweat. I know someone who even did about 200k on one of these on the original cam belt. That's how good they were. Sweet engine that, really, really good. It will go forever. Honestly, you could run it on vegetable oil, I think. Anyway, the C3. What a terrible bit of kit, but I absolutely love it.
Perhaps you're not convinced yet. However, I think the Citroen really does come into its own when you drive it. And it's not because it's any good. Let me explain.
I don't know if it comes across as obvious on camera, but I clearly don't buy many luxurious cars because me calling this thing high spec, it's not really, is it? But in 2003, you got plenty to play with on this thing. What I am shocked about the C3 is the fact that it's still here. It's still going somehow. And that's what I mean. It's kind of adopted that European nature of the fact that it's somehow survived against all odds. It should have been scrapped a long time ago. I'm amazed that someone bothered to weld up the rear sills, and the suspension's getting a little bit knocky. I'm amazed it's even passed its last MOT, but it has, and it's still on the road. I'm using it as my car. It's got some fuel in it, it's tax tested, insured. It works, it's a car for £200 with a test. And it's kind of the European mentality of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep using it, I suppose. This thing works fine, which is utterly incredible considering it's 23 years old and hasn't had an ounce of love in its time on the planet. Whenever I go to Central Europe, I always have a smile on my face when I see stuff like this knocking about, because we're here in this stupid island and we've all got big electric toss boxes. They're whipping about in this. Actually, I don't hate electric cars. I don't really hate new cars. What I do hate is this sort of fallacy that we have to upgrade. No, keep things going. This is what whoever has owned this has done, and I really, really respect it. And I'm gonna pass the baton on, hopefully, to someone who will keep it alive just a little bit longer. In the UK, we're so fixed on the fact that we have to impress our neighbours, impress our mates. Actually, nobody really cares. So why not just drive something like this? Save the planet, because actually, this has been around a lot longer than a Skywell is ever gonna be. But what's it like to drive? Well, it's a diesel Citroen C3. Come on, I don't really need to spell it out. It's mediocre at best. I'm actually struggling to think of ways to describe it other than it handles like a tin bath, really. In fairness, the diesel engine is pretty quick, although that might be a placebo for all the torque it's got. It's okay though, it kind of will sit at motorway speeds if you want it to, and the ride's fine. I wouldn't say it's particularly Citroen-esque, but you know, when Citroen ditched all that hydropneumatic stuff, they had to make some kind of cushy ride, so they've not done too bad of a job. The thing that gets me is the gearbox. It doesn't feel very Citroen at all. It's quite sporty, dare I say. Feels more like it should be at home in a little two-seater Roadster or something, but in this it doesn't really work for me. You've got to kind of shove it in. I don't know if that's a quirk with this car in particular or the fact that they were just stiff from new. I mean, I'd prefer it to slop, don't get me wrong, but it just surprised me, that's all. I thought French were usually un gear de slop. It doesn't really fit with the character of the car. But look, the driving dynamics are not why you're here. To be honest, I don't know why you're here, because this thing is utter mad, but it makes me feel so European. And for a second, I don't care about cars while I'm driving this. It's actually quite a refreshing feeling. Everything else I drive, I'm worried if it's going to go in a standing water puddle or if there's going to be flies hitting the front windscreen. I don't care. It's great. I might have to start buying more cars like this. In the pursuit of making everything immaculate, this is the antidote. It absolutely sips on diesel as well. There's no indication that you're using any. It feels like it's running on the little dust you get in the bottom of the cereal packet. It just absolutely uses nothing. I'll tell you what though, If that pan roof worked, my God, we'd have that open right now. That would be a different sensation entirely, I think. I love a pan roof on a car, and on something like this, where it kind of doesn't really make sense being there because who the hell optioned it, it would be ace, wouldn't it? I really want to go and get a motor. Shame they're about 200 quid.
But that really is the crux of this car. Any money you put into it almost feels like a waste. But you own it. And perhaps that's something our Italian waiter friend sees that we don't.
And actually, there's a little bit of smugness I get when a Polestar or a Moda drives past and I realise my car costs less than your car does per month. Sorry to sound like a cynic. I know finance is great for a lot of people, but there's no better feeling than owning your car and realising someone is paying the price you paid for this every month. And what do they get to show for it? Heated seats? Apple CarPlay? This and a little Bluetooth stereo doodah, what's it called, majig connector thing. You're good. And the best bit, you can eat your baguette. Get crumbs everywhere. This car's disgusting inside and I don't give a toss because I'm not the first person to do this probably. I hate eating in cars, but in this I don't really care because someone's eating a McDonald's Happy Meal in it already or something, I don't know. What's a baguette to harm? It's not quite French boulangerie spec. I got it from the Co-op. Still good though.
Look, I won't sugarcoat it. The C3 is frankly a mediocre car, but to the 3 million people that bought one of these brand new, there's no doubt you were ahead of the curve. And that curve is still very much alive and kicking in parts of Europe, where the local sells their battered sun-faded C3 to another equally non-materialistic local, which is exactly what I'm going to do. The C3 is up for grabs. It's anyone's game. Drop me a message on Instagram and we'll have a chat. And you never know, you might just be cutting about in one of the UK's most apathetic vehicles.
But until then, stay tuned for many more silly car purchases exactly like this C3. Bonsoir Citroen. Oh yes! Whee whee! HDI power. See you in the next one, everyone.